Next reader is Aaron Kunin, who is the author most recently of Grace Periods, a collection from his notebooks. Please, everybody, a warm welcome to Aaron Kunin.
May your hands be too big for your pockets. I'm not threatened by it because it is not trying to depict me. It had been cooked in water and was served with water. Not merely convenient forgetfulness, because sometimes her forgetfulness benefits others. Sometimes herself, in this case, herself. Indiscriminate, sincere forgetfulness. They make no distinction between their important achievements and insignificant or forgettable ones. Did you see my interview? A complete puff piece. I won my squash game. Ostentatiously, she removes her glasses from the glittering case and sets them on her nose, deferring the moment when she will look through them. I had a dream about you in which you did not appear. Alarming, because the fantasy is operating as interpretation. They'll give it to anyone who asks for it, even if they don't mean it. Do you take unsigned checks? Do you take out-of-state third-party checks? We don't applaud. When they really care about something, they stop working. One of those gestures a society makes toward things it doesn't value but pretends to. I assure you, she's really famous. Both aggressively infantile and aggressively maternal. He laughs politely and impolitely, in short, at every opportunity. I feel a bit odd with them because they're never laughing, whereas I'm in the habit of laughing, wanting to laugh, on the verge of laughter all the time. You won't understand, not if you say it like that. If you want him to desire something, you shouldn't apologize for it. The best way for him to desire something is to trick him into believing he's fulfilling your desire. Why are we friends? We're not friends. You just recognize me. They complain the scene is dead there, which may mean simply that no one was sufficiently eager to welcome them on their return. They grab each other because they're feeling drawn to other people. He can only write intelligible sentences. Not all awkwardness has 2 W's. The only way they have of getting back at you is telling the truth, so you're safe. Haven't seen you in a while. I stopped buying from you when you recognized me. Uniquely compassionate, i.e., in a way no one else would understand as compassionate. Overslept. You're having the same dreams you had earlier in the evening. What made him think the phone was ringing? He often picked up the phone and spoke a tentative greeting into it, as though he suspected it was trying to ring, or suppressing a ring. Someone was trying to reach him. One of the things his writing looks for is comfort. It finds it. Anxiously feeling the outside of his pocket for an object that should have been in it. Graphological portrait, the signature of someone who isn't often asked to sign his name. I remain loyal to your former dislike. I continue to treat that person as though you don't like her. If they know only one thing about it, they feel compelled to say it. They have to show how little they know to keep the conversation going. Thus, theory is a way for crude intellects to enjoy the benefits of sensitivity. Thus, sensitivity can be replaced. My sleep had no character. Not quite as dumb as he'd planned to be. He puts the ums in writing that he doesn't put in speaking. Beauty is not yet part of his self-image, so that's even more charming. It's interesting when one of us is wearing more clothes than the other. Being smart is only a job for them. They don't bring it home. There are people who, by being nice and sharing their gifts, inspire rage in others and are the victims of cruel pranks, unjust treatment. See you around, she repeats, as though hearing it for the first time, and what an ugly concept roundness is. What was happening between these two people was more interesting than what was happening at the level of the game between the teams. He backs away from the curb to show he is not waiting for a bus. Pornography is more interesting when viewed upside down. She agreed that her throw had not gone anywhere near the target. Nothing angers them more than the suggestion that the recipients of their degrees were undeserving. He grew up and immediately lost all his hair. The joke is that where they economize is always security. Not being at home means not knowing where there's privacy. A guest has no privacy. It's easier for us to invent something new than to make an effort to understand the art that already exists. I can't believe you're friends with that guy. Well, you're friends with him. Yeah, I just can't believe you are. Aesthetic principles, non-recurrent events, and abrupt endings. What are they doing with their time? Mostly they worry. People invent things to say. This is the whole problem. It's their job to say something, so they can't not say something. So they invent false issues. The least autobiographical writer. Everything I write is something I've thought. Our wonderful Arabic numerals. Flying into Minneapolis, it's like a dream. It's like the hippogriff. It's like Dumbo. Career advancement is apparently not a sufficient motivation. Cognitive portrait, an amazing memory. The least negatively capable person you've ever met. I wish I'd gotten bad grades. The warrior is someone who keeps accidentally killing people. Almost painful to keep from following a glance, a pointing finger, a command to look, look. A polite phrase uttered at an impolite volume, a command, take your time. Why do people who don't know me want to take my picture? This is too intimate to be shared with a stranger. Slowing a door so as not to let it slam shut causes it to creak. Preparation for bed refreshes you, puts off sleep. I couldn't sleep, but I thought I might be able to levitate. So much language comes out of that guy. You're very sexy when you're disgusted. Their clothes seem to show what they think their bodies are. Touching the image, you expose yourself to contamination, as though you could get there faster by pacing back and forth. You've got to stop meeting everything with laughter, nodding, and bowing to the telephone. He would not knowingly wear any patterned fabric. Only a successful American office worker can be truly innocent. What about him? What percent is art? What percent is sheer pig-headedness? Can someone just pretend to be nice? Isn't being nice strictly on the level of appearance? Will you let me say it as a joke? Obviously, these questions are formulas. What answer would you give to such aggressive questions? The closeness of the recently broken up. He turned to look at her when she had completely finished speaking. Some rooms, when you turn out the light, go green, others go red. His description is so compelling that she has to apply it to herself. I'm like that too. I wanted to believe that he was not choosing. He is trying to annoy her, but she will not allow herself to be annoyed. Finally, as an indulgence to him, she pretends. People have almost no imagination. Without other people, they would surely die of boredom. Fortunately, not everyone has the same little imagination. He always takes women to the same place because he has no imagination. I was telling him my problem. I was not asking for his advice. Well, honestly, I feel more comfortable in things that conceal. They all seem to prefer that one for their friend, never for themselves. She thought I was making it up. It was perverse for her to accept the invitation if she thought that, which means she thought I didn't want her here. In any case, I wasn't making it up. It was quite true. This should be rewritten. No one says I like being in groups. I'm a follower. Let's lose contact. It's hard to tell from what they're saying if one of them is being reasonable. And wasn't this also reflected in the style, the way each sentence seemed to occur 3 times or more? Notice that his imagined perfect day does not include any imaginary encounters with other people. No room for other people in his imagination. They gave their children a traditional religious upbringing without telling them. He pretends to be a nice person. Another one pretends not to be nice. Like an easy mark, also like it's not worth the risk. Like he's wearing a sign, fuck with me. He tells time by overhearing others ask for the time, or by reading their watches. They don't quite match their sad or angry photographs. The surface was not reflective enough to catch his imperfections. He enjoys the weight, swinging and twisting at the end of his arm. Some parts of the body are never in fashion. The finishing touch can hurt. Seeing them with another person, they sometimes become more interesting. What you're not giving them becomes apparent. The puffs of air escaping from his backpack. Thanks. I like to have a basin when I'm throwing up. The filthiest thing I've ever touched is the handle of your toothbrush. Punishment of the body is one of the needs of the soul. If people had been nicer to her, really, if they had just left her alone, she might still be here. I can hear you smiling, the crack of his smile. Everything else in the room was more interesting than the film. Can't you blur me a little more? He asked very nicely. He'll even tell you what to think. Same values, different suits, like with playing cards. Yes, we are relevant. Yes, we are exciting. Just give us the money. Yelling at her, but quietly, so awful to watch. He waits until he's standing in front of the microphone, then blows his nose. His tiredness made a sound that woke him. He felt, at last, that he would be able to sleep at the poetry reading. Warning, This program has no content. Your two bad aspects are in conflict. Nice job. My job is being nice. Their parents murder them. And if they don't get murdered, they get married, and their spouses murder them in fits of jealousy, and their lovers murder their spouses. Conversation is my form of suffering. After 10 minutes, conversation hits a wall because you do not share anything with them, and the necessity of explaining everything, including the most elementary ideas, is unappetizing, and simulating agreement is impossible. Now you have to do something nice for someone else. I'd rather just pay cash. I was pretty sure I had behaved honorably. He expresses love by spending money. How often one is required to explain oneself. Amazing that it should ever come as a surprise. You don't have a prepared explanation? Dozing all afternoon in the posture of a hanged man. Every time I looked at you, you were reading, i.e. elsewhere. The most important tool is earplugs. One of the most powerful rhetorical moves that can be made. That's not what you said you wanted last week. Yeah, I changed my mind. Last week I wanted one thing, this week I want something else. Almost as good. That's not what I just said. Of course it isn't. It's a paraphrase, an interpretation of what you just said. How can you expect your sayings to have any power or value if no one can paraphrase them? Sort of a relief not to dream about you, as I've been doing for the past 2 weeks, unless the point of the dream is that I'm trying to imitate you. It is surprising that I know you well enough to put you in a dream, that you left enough of an impression on me to return in a dream. I'm a literalist, so I live in a world in which there are no puns. This is a place in which it is difficult for me to be an adult. They need punishment. They crave punishment and baby talk. Thank you.